Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Professor of Public Health Nutrition at the University of Technology Fitzroy Henry is urging Jamaicans to support the proposed ban on sugary drinks. He was speaking on the weekend at the launch of Phase 4 of the Are We Drinking Ourselves Sick campaign by the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. TVJ's Shamela Pullen reports.
Government ban on sugary drinks because of studies which show links to heart disease, stroke, some cancers, obesity, as well as increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Professor of Public Health Nutrition at the University of Technology, Fitzroy Henry, says that makes sugary drinks a big danger to public health.
We should really introduce a tax in Jamaica. I don't know what the government will decide if it's 10% or 20%, but we have to make sure that the taxation is introduced so that we can protect the public. As I said, one life lost from sugary drinks is too much.
Professor Henry argued that Jamaica would not be unique to this taxation on sugary drinks. He says 38 countries around the world have already introduced the tax, with another 15 contemplating the same move within the next year.
In Europe, sugary drinks consumption after the tax went down by 6%. In Mexico, after the first year of the tax, it went down by 6%. The second year, it went down by 9%. In Barbados, in the Caribbean, they have now realized that the tax they introduced reduced consumption by over 4%.
And while he notes that a tax on sugary drinks may cost more for poorer Jamaicans, the professor points out that a large percentage of those who are obese are poor.
The sponsored study that you've had in your booklets and you heard about, it shows that 71% of people in Jamaica support a tax on sugary drinks. And if that tax can be used for promotion purposes and obesity prevention purposes, then 81% of Jamaicans said that they are in support of the tax.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party, Robert Montague, says he's happy that opposition Senator Damion Crawford appears to be the PNP's candidate for East Portland. He was addressing a JLP meeting yesterday at Titchfield High in Port Antonio.
I am glad that them over the other side never choose the lady Andrea Moore. When I hear it's not Andrea Moore, I'm glad Sotil. Because she would have given a little problem. She would have given a little trouble. I'm glad it's not she. But there is a trend in the PNP for dash with the woman them. But Labour Party love women in every way, in every place, and in everything.
While stating that it would pose a challenge if Andrea Moore was selected to represent the PNP, Mr. Montague questioned why the PNP would want to choose a candidate who is not from the constituency.
Over 1 month to come take a seat. You beg him to come take a seat. That means when trouble come, he must say, me never did want to beg you, no beg me to take it. You have to beg him to come take a seat.
We are ready for PEP. That's the word from the Education Ministry a day before the first sitting of the primary exit profile exams. We have details in this report.
Come tomorrow, grade 6 students across the island will be sitting the primary exit profile PEP exam. It will begin with a 1 hour and 15 minutes long ability test, which will assess students on their verbal and quantitative reasoning. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program on Monday, Manager of the Student Assessment Unit, Terrian Thomas Gale, explained that each student will get a booklet with 40 multiple choice questions. And amidst lingering concerns from the public, she insisted the ministry is ready for the exam.
Items that will be on the test form, they would have gone through a series of reviews, a series of piloting and repiloting to ensure that they are reliable, they are valid, and we're being fair to our students.
Last year, students did the PEP pilot exams and the results were disappointing.
We used the data from the mock performance task and we would have adjusted the items based on the issues. We would have gone back out and repiloted these items and we would have seen where they are performing the way that the parents would have wanted them. And we worked along with the Jamaica Teachers Association and the National Parenting Commission, and we worked together to ensure that the items and the tests being administered tomorrow meet the standards.
The performance task tests will take place on March 27 and 28. Mrs. Thomas Gale pointed out that for the curriculum-based exams scheduled for April 16 and 17, students will only be quizzed on what they learned in grade 6.
GSAT saw the students studying 3 years of work. They were tested on grade 4, grades 5, and grade 6. For the primary exit profile at grade 6, they will only be tested on what they would have been taught since September to the date of the assessment, meaning the second term. We go up to the second term with the assessment.
The grade 4 students will do their performance task exam on May 30 and 31, while grade 5 students will do their exams on June 20 and 21. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says over 50 vector control workers have been employed in Handover to intensify the fight against dengue. He said the workers have been telling residents how to destroy and prevent mosquito breeding sites. So far, mosquito breeding sites have been found at 12% of the estimated 8,000 premises inspected. Dr. Tufton added that proper solid waste management continues to be a challenge and is urging residents to do better. He was speaking recently at the Health Ministry's Taking Responsibility Road tour at the Walter Hall Anglican Parish Church. The Portland Fire Department is still investigating the circumstances which led to a house fire in Love Lane, Port Antonio early this morning. About 6:40, residents saw smoke coming from the 4-bedroom building and called the fire department. 2 jet units were used to put out the blaze. TVJ News understands that the owner of the property lives overseas. Damage is estimated at $2.5 million. Another call this afternoon for justices of the peace to help in the fight against crime. The call was made at a recent sensitization session for JPs in Portland. We have more in this report.
Several anti-crime measures implemented nationally, and still, crime and violence remains a challenge across the island. Amidst calls for all Jamaicans to play their part in crime fighting, a specific challenge to justices of the peace about their role in helping to address the problem of corruption as well. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck and Executive Director of National Integrity Action, Professor Trevor Monroe, addressed JPs in Portland recently.
Too many of our citizens cannot enjoy themselves without being afraid and worrying about their safety and that of their friends and family and loved ones. Today, it's a matter of the greatest regret that I and you have to admit that we are the 5th most murderous country in the world of 192 nations. 5th. And with all of that, look how much people want to come here. Can you imagine what will happen when we improve that?
So the Don, you see him walking around the community, putting on Christmas party, putting on dances, leading and misleading our young people. We see the illicit persons interacting and giving the way, leading the way. And you look and you know that they are misleading, but you sit back and say, look what Jamaica come to.
And even as Professor Monroe encouraged them to work on the Vision 2030 goal of making the country a better place to live, The Justice Minister urged the JPs to make themselves visible in the communities they serve.
That you represent what is good in the country. And if you represent what is upright, then for God's sake, show it. Move in the community, interact, let people see you shining. Don't hide on your veranda and in your living room. Go to neighborhood meetings, Parent Teachers Association. Be willing to serve on boards.
Shamala Pulen, TVJ News.
A government center is to be constructed in Montague Bay, St. James to facilitate easy access to information and services. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the announcement at the groundbreaking ceremony for the closed Harbour Beach Park development in Montague Bay on Friday. Mr. Holness said land has already been identified for the project.
Every city has to have public administration. And that public administration has to be accessible by all its citizens, but it also must reflect the dreams and aspirations and your own pride in your own government, your pride in your country and in your state. It must also not just reflect the dignity of the state, but it must reflect the efficiency of the state.
He says it will also have a world-class performing arts center to help boost the tourism product.
So you could very well have on within the product of tourism in Montague Bay, your own performing arts theater, where you will bring together not just your dance, but your drama, your music, and your singing. And Minister Grange will ensure that we have the people well trained and our culture well represented in the tourism product.
In news overseas, 58 former national security officials from both the Democratic and Republican parties plan to issue a statement challenging U.S. President Donald Trump's declaration of a national emergency on the southern border. We have details from the CNN.
Today, 58 former senior national security officials, 58 from both sides of the aisle, will issue a statement saying, quote, there is no factual basis to President Trump's declaration of a national emergency on the southern border. The statement reads in part, under no plausible assessment of the evidence is there a national emergency today that entitles the president to tap into funds appropriated for other purposes to build a wall at the southern border.
Some of the officials signing the letter include Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State under Bill Clinton, John Kerry, President Obama's Secretary of State, and Chuck Hagel and Susan Rice, who both served under Mr. Obama. Also signing the letter, Thomas Pickering and Elliot Cohen, who worked for President George H.W. Bush. 10 days ago, the president declared a national emergency to access billions of dollars in federal funding to build a wall on sections of the Mexico border. The move bypassed Congress after lawmakers refused to give the president the $5.7 billion he wanted for his wall.
And in sports, the third one-day international between the West Indies and England at the Grenada National Stadium has been delayed due to persistent rain. If there is no action before 2 p.m. Jamaica time, the match will be abandoned. The ODI series is locked at 1-1. The fourth one-day will be on Wednesday at the same venue. The fifth ODI will be on Saturday in St. Lucia. The tour will also consist of 3 T20 internationals. And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.